Oh, right.
Recording is in progress.
Fantastic. All righty, let's get rolling, everybody. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. This is Manhattan Community Board 1 Executive Committee. My name is Tammy Meltzer. I'm chair. I'm joined by our executive committee of the board and some of our public members. So delighted to get this rocking and rolling on a Thursday at 6:07. Let's get the agenda up, folks. My goal is to have a robust and quick meeting. I think everyone has seen, we're going to start with topic 1, the update on the New York State changes to the open meeting law. Does anybody, we circulated that email early, and there have been changes that have gone into effect in legislation, which we have thankfully up on the screen. Let's start with our executive committee and see if anybody has any questions of what's gone on. If so, since we're a small enough group, feel free to speak up. Remember, one at a time though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember seeing, or I haven't seen this, so just tell us what's happening.
So we will be able to get this to after June. We will be able to operate in hybrid meeting form, which is really great for public engagement. We can do video conferencing, which is fantastic. So especially when we are in locations where it's tight or anything else like that, we can have the public participate remotely so they don't have to necessarily come into the room. The thing that remains the same is that we must have quorum of the voting members in the room. We do not have a way to determine who will be in or out. So it will be, if you are a board member, you will be required to be in the space if you are planning on voting. If for any odd reason it turns out that you can vote remotely, that's great. But the problem is the first requirement is that we have quorum in the room. And I don't know any way of being a gatekeeper to say, okay, well, Paul Goldstein can stay home today, but Pat Moore has to be in the room.
Yeah, I had this discussion with Lucian. So is this something that we can protest? Because it's crazy to require people, of course. First of all, we have people who have legitimate reasons for not being in the room.
Well, we are moving back towards a position where we're going to have a large enough space, optimally, to be able to hold the board meetings. We've spoken with the borough president's office to be able to use their space because obviously we can't use ours. We've spoken to PACE, we've reached out to Convene, we've reached out to several other locations to be able to appropriately distance people. And that is, for right now, the best that we can do. There is a public hearing that we need to run on this, and right after that, we can certainly do a resolution. As you can see, it says, once we've adopted the resolution, or the Senate Assembly has done a joint resolution following a public hearing authorizing the use of video conferencing. So we will need to do a public hearing first, then we will do a resolution, then we will pass the resolution along. We can certainly, in that resolution, opine and comment on the quorum issue at that point. So that's the layout of the plan of where we go. It's a discussion tonight, public hearing, resolution.
And just make it clear again. So if you're video conferencing and you're not physically in the room, you cannot vote.
I mean, I can jump in there.
Please do, Lucian, because you.
Okay. So this is it's definitely a porridge. You know, the porridge is almost, you know, not too hot or too cold, but there is porridge, and I think it's definitely a big step for the state to move in this direction. And I will say that you can have people vote remotely. That's the big sea change right now. Tammy is correct. You have to maintain a physical quorum's worth of members in the room. So you have to have a physical meeting. But those who are permitted per the community board's resolution outlining how it's going to run these meetings, those members who qualify for whatever the reasons are that are laid out by the board, and this language actually even has a bunch of examples, um, including disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes a member's physical attendance at such meeting. This is, it's not limited to this, but we certainly, can start with, we can have different orders of importance, with immunocompromised people may elect to, for example, be remote whenever they wish. One could say anyone with caregiving responsibilities may elect to be remote and then kind of move outwards from there. It will, and this is one of the things I discussed with Pat, to really hit that number. It's going to really require the office to actively manage the attendance of the members. Right now, we hope that members will let us know when they're not attending, but if we are not just banking on quorum now, we're banking on physical quorum, and that's a shade more complicated. And so we could send out a questionnaire at the beginning of every month saying, are you going to attend the meeting? Can you attend in person? And then kind of work from there. It will be a little extra work for the office, but I think it's worthwhile because it allows us to do two really big things. One, any committee could conceivably fit in our in our conference room, not large, but our CB1 conference room, which allows us not to have to move our equipment, which means that we'll have more consistent meetings every month because their setup is unchanged. Two, it allows us to have far more flexibility at full board, especially because only having to accommodate 26 members means that we could comfortably sit everyone around the large conference room table in the borough president's office. That's the size of room that's actually perfect for that, and people can all look at each other, and so I mean the number of options we have are really much larger than if we have to have a full complement of community board members. So with that, I see the other hands went up, Tammy. I'm here to answer questions for what I know. We are going to get draft language for this resolution. Tammy's correct that we need to have a hearing first. We have 60 days to get this done, which I think is more than enough time. But this is an important kickoff conversation because you all have to start thinking about those things and asking people to speak at that hearing that we have upcoming on Tuesday for this subject.
So before I go to Mariama, one of the things that I'm asking for legal clarification on is how we determine, if you're immunocompromised, is it, where do we stand? Is it a doctor's note that has to be filed? Is there any formal process through the borough president's office? We don't know any of that yet, and that's what we're waiting to hear from. So I want to qualify that because it would be untenable to have not enough people in the room to host a full board meeting because people have decided and that they didn't want to come, they had childcare issues, whatever the case may be. And how many people, if quorum is 26, do we say that we need to have a minimum of 28 or 9 people in the room just in case there's attrition? So there's lots of things that we do have to think of as well. Mariama, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was going to ask a similar question. I don't know, I could be misunderstanding, but I felt like in reading these and hearing Lucian read them, that people would potentially be expected to breach their own medical privacy on a monthly basis. It felt kind of like a HIPAA violation.
I don't really think that's going to be the case, Mariama. We're not required to, for example, when we excuse people for being sick, which is, in our bylaws, that's an excused absence that we've determined as a community board. We don't ask for a doctor's note.
So this could be taking it to the next level, because we know that we have members that are severely immunocompromised, right? So that are chronically ill. It's kind of like I'm sick today, I'm sick tomorrow. And would they have to discuss that every month, and let you know like what their status is, the updates?
So the problem becomes we have to manage attendance. So if it's a month that they think that they are feeling well and they come to a meeting, that's great. We need to be able to rely on people for quorum. So it's a very difficult and sort of gray area that we're not sure yet. And quite frankly, I don't want to put down anything until we hear from the borough president, because they're the ones who look at attendance. Let's be honest, right? If you are not, then you get not reappointed or you can be booted. And this borough president is very, very particular and setting down even ground rules on decorum he's working on. So I don't want to tell somebody, that's not my job as a chair to say, yes, you're immunocompromised and no, you are nothing about that. So I need them to lay down the guidance that comes to us before we can say, and maybe that's a part of their interview process and conversation that they have when they're interviewing, are you able to be in the room or do you need to be remote? Right? Because maybe when they do appointments looking from here forward, that's a question that needs to be asked for new applicants.
I think it's definitely something that we need to suggest they ask, because now it's not going to just be, people from Lower Manhattan, or that worked or went to school in Lower Manhattan that may have been affected by something like COVID. 9/11. Now you have going to have people with long COVID that is, and maybe both. Maybe they've been through more than one trauma, or environmental disaster or something, and we don't know the extent of those things. And I just think that obviously, I would imagine it would be illegal to say you can't apply to be on the board. So how do you participate if you're in those circumstances? And another thing, are we going to still have to? I know Lucy was talking about the large conference room. Would that be our regular meeting place, or are we still going to have to move around? Because that could impact people as well. Like maybe I can go, if I'm ill, I can go to a meeting downstairs or down the block, but I can't go to one on the other side of town, or I don't know. I think there's a lot of little legs on this.
Yes, but also remember, we are in an incredibly fortunate situation to be at 1 Center Street, because we have an opportunity that other boards don't. To use that space. No, we would not be there all the time because we're at the behest of whatever events and things that they have. So yes, the answer is, as a standard, we would still be visiting other locations within Community Board 1.
Yeah.
And Mariama, just to build on what Tammy's saying, and I've done some work working within the previous version of open meetings law. I've developed a plan to even have our, for full board, we can, within, and still in full compliance with open meetings law, have our conference room be a place where members who may not want to be around the general public can go. We have the air purifier on blast, and that's a secondary location that, we have the equipment that they can, be part of the meeting in the large conference room. So that takes even more members out of that space. So it's, we have lots of tricks up our sleeves, but this adds a lot more flexibility on top of that. So I feel like
that sounds good, and like it allows for
this is generally a good thing. I think this is a good thing. A lot of what the state is asking for, one thing that this language does is it also convenes a body to crunch what happens over the next 2 years, and then create a report that goes back to the legislature so they can use that as fodder to discuss whether or not some of these changes should be the beginning of a bigger reform, or should be just the reform, or they should discard it altogether. And I think
Mm-hmm.
having all the resolutions and laws that are passed by the smaller towns, they want that as a way to kind of say, like, what is everyone doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then later on they'll say, well, what did everyone do over the past 2 years? Did you find that it was helpful? Was the public still able to engage? Does anyone feel like the transparency was lost in the voting, with having members being remote and voting? So those are the sorts of questions they're going to try to answer after 2 years with that report. So I really have a strong feeling like we're not going to have to provide proof or justification. We just need to provide, and of course, we are going to get confirmation of this, but we just need to create the circumstances in which we, as a board, are willing to allow for remote attendance.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Justine, Patrick, and then Betty, and then we're going to move to the next topic. It's 6:23. Everybody has. I'd like to close this in 10 minutes, if possible.
So yeah, I'm gonna just to clarify, quorum in the room, and some people who are not in the room could vote remotely, as long as there's quorum in the room. Is that's what it
That's
says?
right. And they can vote remotely.
All right, thank you.
I was gonna say, I guess maybe I'm encouraged by what Lucian just said to hear that there will be a commission that'll sort of study how this plays out. But I think as it relates to New York City community boards, which are just a different entity than the town of Roscoe, New York planning board or something, it seems to me this provision does nothing more for us than create, on balance, more administrative headaches than it does create any conveniences or better uses for the members. In fact, all I can tell is it just helps you save attendance. But beyond that, I'm just kind of wondering if we sort of got some legal minds together to sort of figure out how open meetings laws applies to New York City community boards, and whether that's really sort of the overall problem that it just doesn't work for us, and we should be subject to some open meetings laws, I guess, but it's more about, I don't know, I'm just trying to say, like, how we function, and having people in the room isn't necessarily the key indicator. So I don't know. I think there's ways to work this language that are more effective for New York City community boards than for other state and local bodies that are subject to open meetings laws. And I think we should really try to work on that. That makes a little bit more sense for us. Our flexibility is a little bit more important than other agencies or bodies that really this law is intended to apply to.
I don't disagree, but we are not in the, unfortunately, we are not the ones in the business right now of changing that. So
yeah, well, I guess that was my question too, is really where does this, do we know where this stands legislatively?
It's passed.
Okay.
This was in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
The budget, and it's the state that does it, or the city? The city does
Yeah,
it.
the
The
state.
Respectfully.
No, it's just
state.
State.
the state. This is language that's tucked into the budget. It's section part WW.
Right.
In one of the 8 budget documents.
Patrick,
This is because they didn't want to just change the charter, right? The state charter. Is that correct?
No, I mean, public officers law, open meetings law. Those are state laws that were amended temporarily. I mean, they say permanently, but for 2 years. For this. So this is the law of the land. This is on the books. It's not. It is not predicated on any state of emergency on this for the state or the city. However, here's the other thing, and this actually reminds me. Thank you for bringing this up. If there is any state of emergency in place, whether at the state level or the city level, we can immediately move back to full remote without any additional executive orders. So
That's a,
if there's
that's a
a
benefit.
forced fire, if there's a water shortage, if a hurricane superstorm Sandy happens again, God forbid, we can, and there's a state of emergency that's declared on any level of government, we can move to fully remote.
Okay, Betty, you're next.
Yeah, what about a bad snowstorm? That dovetails kind of what I was going to say. One, I'm very interested in what Patrick just said. I still think it's worth looking at how well it applies to community boards, because if nothing else, that belongs as part of the resolution. Because it's our elected officials at the state level who are making these, I think, ridiculous laws. They're not tailored enough.
But also remember, there's a state level and then there's also city charter. So I believe community boards, according to city charter, we are covered by open meeting laws.
Yes, you are public bodies. You are public bodies, and you are all public officials. You are unpaid public servants, and you have legal status as such. So that's why you are captured in this open
Correct.
meeting law, public bodies. Law of the governing
True, but
public.
I also know the TMRB isn't.
Correct.
And they're
For-
making bigger decisions.
Agreed, which we'll get to that in a minute.
Right, no, I know, I went back to the old resolution.
Just you wait.
Just you wait. Anything else, Betty?
Yeah, no, I just made the comment that there was a discussion of who should be exempt or not, and I just want to get people thinking about no one should be exempted openly, which I know leaves the burden of month by month, but I agree that's kind of what it has to be. For instance, if there's a big snowstorm, I can't physically get there to where the meeting is, but that shouldn't exempt me other times, and I should not be allowed to go because somebody has childcare they consider is a problem every month. Like, really?
We have had that discussion, and we have had board members who have had to decline their position on the boards because they were not able to provide childcare. So working together to find a way to make it work and make it equitable is extremely difficult. But I agree. A blanket, no, you don't have to, is not necessarily,
It's not workable. It's not fair and it's not workable. But I was gonna say, I also think we could put in something such as if you are remote, this bothers me. Camera should be on when you vote or when you speak.
Yes.
You have your camera off the rest of the time, but how do you know the person's voting? I mean, how do you know?
We're going to wait for guidance. Vicki, you're next, and then last comment.
Vicki. Sorry, did I put my hand up? My mistake. I was just congratulating on Betty's comment. Sorry. I'll
It's okay.
down if I only know how at this moment.
We can help you with that.
Got it. Sorry. Thank you.
All righty. So let's move on to the next item on our agenda. And the next item on our agenda tonight is the protocol for the cannabis retail applications. So this is going to be a very short topic. And the reason why I'm saying this is the beginning of the subject, not the end of the subject. And the OCM, which is the new control board that's working. Mariama is our lead on a seminar that we have April 28th. I'm going to have Mariama speak briefly about that. And then we as a board need to discuss what committee this brand new agency is going to come to for permits. So Mariama, let's first talk about the event, and then we're going to go to this. And I just put her on the spot, sorry.
That's okay. I was just about to go to the restroom. So the event is Thursday, the 28th. It will be in person at a location on Bleecker Street that I don't remember off the top of my head. But I can get to, actually, I may have it right here. And I was originally brought into it because the other Mariama, you may know her as Mar, on Community Board 2, had been working for a very long time. with people involved in the cannabis industry, just really trying to educate herself on it. And so when the law passed in New York, there was a decision to try to go about it in the most equitable way possible, in that they wanted to give the first like 100 licenses to people of color, maybe a percentage specifically to Black people, people that have been on the wrong end or the negative end of marijuana for this long, since before it was legal, and they found themselves in jail and stuff, and now it's actually a legal thing to do and to sell. And so they wanted also to give it more specifically to women of color. And so then we were brought into more conversation. So she ended up calling me about a couple of weeks ago and saying, I'd like to have a forum and, bring you and board 3 and board 4. And I said, that sounds great. And we started talking about it, just like a couple of us. And it sort of ballooned into this whole thing, big event, that now the borough president has stepped in and said that he would like to host it and be the sponsor. So now it's a real thing that's going to be having a real event where we'll be discussing. So I'm concerned with the community, the quality of life concerns. I want to bring those to the board, because it's not just like, okay, now we can all get high and be happy. There's going to cause problems. It's going to cause concerns. Not everybody wants to partake and, or be impacted or get secondhand smoke, for example, and things like that. So those are the kind of things that I'm hoping to be questions and concerns that I'm hoping to be able to bring to the table, literally, when we have that meeting next week.
So I need everyone to sort of think a little bit in terms of Community Board 1 process. And I encourage you to all join Mariama on this incredibly important meeting that we're co-hosting next week. And one of the reasons is there are 3 options that have come to lead in terms of who would approve these. There's obviously licensing, because this is a licensing matter, and they will be operating very similar to the way the SLA operates. But we have a very robust licensing committee right now that is busy. And given most months, adding something like this on top, we're not sure what the additional impact would be. I have no desire to end up being similar to Community Board 2, which has 2 licensing meetings. Both of them go till midnight most weeks, most months. I don't think that that's actually something that's fantastic to do to the volunteers. We have land use, and land use has an economic development aspect to it. This is economic development. They have also been part and parcel to approving permits for physical culture establishments and other things like that. And we have quality of life, which has to deal with all the quality of life issues that come out after SLA rulings. So there could be ways to figure this out. And I need everybody to sort of productively think about where it should fit, so we can be prepared and do the best due diligence that we can to have it be a fair and equitable and seamless permit process for people coming to us in Community Board 1. And they will. There's plenty of retail open. For anybody who thinks it won't open downtown, you are wrong. Flat. Any hands up on that?
So I looked it up. It's going to be at the Sheen Center, SHEEN Center at 18 Bleecker Street, Thursday, April 28th at 7 p.m. Conversation about the emerging cannabis industry and the landscape in our neighborhoods.
Perfect.
I imagine it's going to be hybrid now that the borough president is involved. When we were talking about the planning stages, we had our little planning meeting before that. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to do that, but with him, I would imagine it probably is going to be hybrid now. I don't know for sure, however.
Pat, you're first.
I'm on the licensing committee, but I still feel like it should go to licensing, because in licensing we have a certain mindset and we're used to the issues that come up in discussing a license. I think it's the appropriate venue for it, but people can argue with me, but I think it's the right place for it to go.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I have no troubles with anything. Again, this I don't think should be a decision that I as chair make. I as chair can make that decision, but I would rather have the community have input on where they think it fits best based on the work that we do as a board.
I think that's probably going to be a good place for it to end up. And CB2 is expecting that they're probably going to have to create sort of licensing committee for it. But they're putting it through, they have what we call a race and equity committee. And they're putting it through there specifically because the first 100 licenses have to go to Black people and other people of color and Black women. So they want to make sure that they're addressing that.
Perfect.
Tammy, I know we discussed this the other day. We were talked about it, but I actually agree with Pat and Mariama here on the licensing. I think if it's a license, it's a license, and that's the committee it would fall in. And I think that would help the public to better understand, because I'm not sure that where else it's not a zoning, it's not a land use, and it's not truly quality of life per se, as any license affects quality of life, but it does seem to sort of fit, as much as that would be burdensome, I'm sure, to that committee.
That's what Susan gets for not making it to the meeting today. Sorry. Okay.
It's terrible.
It's not nice, Tammy.
It's terrible.
That was funny. She'll have a fit,
That's not nice. I agree with what's been said so far in terms of it probably needing to go to that committee, and just
co-chair.
Just getting really involved on another level there. That's a lot of work, and we have to really look at streamlining that whole process, because to add something that's going to blow up, and be very technical, is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. But yeah, bottom line is a license is a license, and that's where more than likely it's going to be.
Okay. I think what we should do going forward from here is take a look at the laws, take a look after the 28th, get a small working group together to do a stipulation sheet, much like we have for liquor licenses, because if they're following the same rules as we understand they are at the moment for liquor license with the 500 rule and the distance from schools and houses of worship, then we should take a look and have that discussion. We don't need to do it by ourselves, but we can certainly take a look at our own, take a look at what the other community boards around us are doing, so we can have some kind of symmetry. I don't think that I have long said there is not a one size fits all model, especially when you look at Community Board 1, which has historic districts and the streets and the layouts are very different from, let's say, a street like Broadway from north to south. So let's, if you would like to volunteer to work on that, to get that ready to make the pathways easier for the public when they come before us, please email Lucian and me.
I just wanted to say one thing. Did everyone see on the news today the opening of the dispensaries? So you saw the lines. Now, I don't know if that was because it's novel and today's the first day, but if we're going to have lines like that, we have to take that into consideration.
Exactly.
All right. What does it look like in other places that have already opened? Is there a bell curve where it kind of levels off after, say, like 6 months or something like that? I don't know if we have.
They just look like normal stores. People walk in, people walk out.
Yeah, like I lived in Denver. They're just normal stores.
Mm-hmm. But how long have they been in? Have they been in existence for them to be normal?
Long time.
Okay, so that's there.
First.
I think the fact that it was 4/21, which is the day after like the big, pothead holiday, which is 4/20, and then the opening day. I think there's kind of like a carnival-like atmosphere. But I think if we look back in a week, if somebody looks in a week, I think it'll be like a normal store.
Mm-hmm.
Like any other tobacco store in the city. I mean, let's be real. Tobacco stores existed. I know I remember them from the 70s. They were far more frequent then, where you'd go in and they sold, cigars and cigarettes and lighters and everything else. I don't think it'll be that much different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we definitely have to have some input in terms of how many will be allowed in a certain area. We are like with licensing, we already have the 500-foot rule. We'll got to look at how they're going to look at that, the timing of it. How many I would love to have real control over it and like say only approve like 5 a month, for the first year and then, keep it going. But if we have that kind of, I hope we have that kind of input or some input into how it's regulated on some level, particularly in our community. Because you're right, Tammy. Is with the restaurants open restaurant, open streets. It's like one size does not fit all. And some of the stuff that we get in licensing, and some of the stuff we've seen in the community already in terms of how people have taken advantage of it. And ours is not that bad. If you look at Community Board 2 and 3, they have issues as well. But this is going to be big.
So let's, Betty, if you don't mind, let's take this up to take it up again. If you would like to be on the working group, let's move along tonight because I've got a goal. All right. Requesting the Traffic Mobility Review Board to comply fully with the open meetings law. This was a comment that Betty made earlier. So I learned from my colleagues at the Borough Board meeting last week, which was on a week earlier than normal, that they passed a resolution, which I think we can do exactly the same, that demands, as you see here, I love this one, from Russell Squire, that requests it goes through all of the traffic mobility laws, and it is a straight on request for them to comply with open meeting laws. I mean, it's simple. Hold all meetings as public and allow the public to witness the deliberations and decision making. Because not only was we just didn't even have a seat at the table, which is insane, but even more so, we are in the zone. We should know what's going on. Hands up, Betty.
Yes, as long as it's also tied to the resolution that we passed as a community board, I think it was in January of 2020.
Yep.
Because there we asked for them to follow the open meeting law, so it should at least reference that in a whereas. Agreed.
Justine, you're next.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with this and this just asking for open meeting laws, because at this point in time, is there a final decision made? We don't know. And at this point, there's still no carve back for residents.
At this point, there's nothing that we know of because nothing's in the public realm, which is exceedingly frustrating.
Frustrating, except people who make $60,000 a year or less. I think that was proposed.
Correct. That is passed in the legislation, but you don't know if that 60,000 is per individual or per household. There's no determination, and there's been no public discussion on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So if I don't see any more hands, which I don't, and I would like to, I'm going to call the question. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll go by affirmation. And so I'm going to assume everybody's a yay. I'll call for nays, abstentions, and recusals. So are there any abstentions? Hearing none, are there any recusals? Hearing none, are there any no's? Fantastic. Motion passes, goes to the full board. Thank you very much. I love that. South Battery Park City Resiliency Project pre-construction site tours and display of the architectural models. Everybody, I hope, saw the email that was sent out.
Mm-hmm.
Alice, take it away. If you want.
Hi everybody. There's really nothing more to say, but you know, we've fought for getting these tours, so you might want to go on them if you want to know what is actually going to happen down there. And I think we have like the 23rd and the 28th. I know we've asked that Nick Spordone from the Battery Park City Authority follow up with actually where we'll meet on these tours on the 23rd and the 28th, and, you know, the location, the meeting point, and as well as when the models will be available on Rector Place. The models look very interesting. Anyway, you know, I would say a little of this is coming a tad late, given that, of course, it's well underway. But another thing they've done that Tammy and I both noted, which is quite extraordinary, is because this board has been on record to question the need for some of these measures. If I could go on record here, I guess I'm stating this publicly, are somewhat. Oh, I better be careful. They have painted the lampposts in Battery Park City a light blue to show where in 100 years we may experience a storm. 100 years. So in order to convince us all that we are losing this magnificent park at the high point of Lower Manhattan, we are looking at these lampposts, which I find a little, okay, Justine, who lives there, and Tammy nodding their head. I found it a little troubling. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, I'm going
to share a picture of the pole.
Okay. That said, if you're interested, they're fascinating. We did one of the North Battery Park where, you know, experts come along and tell you what's going to happen, and it's very interesting. So I recommend it just for edification purposes. And if you're actually really interested in what you will and will not see in the park, this is your moment. So there you go. That's it. Nothing more to report there. But I think it is interesting to see those polls, Tammy.
Yeah, so Tammy, you're pulling them up, right? I can tell you, if it's okay, the times and the dates specifically.
The 23rd and the 28th. Oh, good. Yes, repeat it.
Yeah, I have the information, so that's pulled it up. So on Saturday, April 23rd, it's at 1 o'clock, and you started at the location First Place and Battery Place.
Thank you.
Wrong one.
Sorry, it's okay. And Thursday, April 28th, it starts at 4 p.m. at First Place and Battery Place, is what it's saying. And there's
Saturday first.
Are you seeing the picture?
I am seeing a picture of a wall.
Yes, with all your documents open.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I don't think that was it. That wasn't a poll.
Thanks, Justine. Did they tell you when the models will be open to the public for viewing?
Not yet. Not yet. They said they'll TV. This says TBD. And just so you know, Nick is doing his you know, he's like, whatever. He's got military service. He does military service every bit. He's going to be gone for a month. So I'm not sure who's going to be taking his place while he's gone, but we're going to need somebody to be taking his place while he's gone. But I'll figure that out.
Find out for us who that'll be.
Yeah,
so we make sure. And also about the model. I know I asked Diana too, whoever finds that out, because people would be wanting to see that.
Yeah, they said it was going to be, the model was going to be put up in the community room at 200 Rector Place,
right?
But they didn't say when.
So. Right, that's what we need to know. And yeah, I think Earth Day is tomorrow, so time is of. Yeah. Seems like a good time.
Nice if they would have it up there. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Justine.
I'm attempting to figure out how to get this done with WebEx, because WebEx is a little more clunky than my Zoom.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is anybody else going Saturday?
I'm going to try to go Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, because that's when I'm enrolled.
Yeah, I'm going to try to be there at 1.
I hope you get good weather. Good.
So
yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be.
I might go both. I might do both, but I just have so many things going on. So I'm going to be balancing between different things. So shoot me now.
Go. Here is, oopsie. Can you see that picture now?
Oh, perfect.
Wow. Isn't that incredible? I have to laugh every time I see it.
Do you mean that the blue part is the height that the water will get to?
Yes.
That's the 16-foot height, I guess, right? That's what they're saying. They're preparing for the 16-foot storm. So a surge would go that high at that location. I think
what bothers me the most is the sign says,
that's
blue represents the height of potential flooding from future severe weather. And it says the Battery Park City Authority is responding to this threat through its resiliency projects in conjunction with the City of New York. This height is calculated for a 2050 100-year storm based on sea level rise estimates as published by the New York City Panel on Climate Change.
Yeah.
But that's 100-year, that's a storm that would occur potentially once every 100 years.
Yes.
Correct. Starting in 2050, they're saying.
But I mean, okay, not that I agree with what they're planning to do, but at the end of the day, I'm glad they're planning ahead because they're spending a lot of money on doing this. So that part doesn't bother me. What does bother me is the plan in which they are like doing what they're doing in Wagner Park, especially to the buildings. They didn't need to do what they're doing to
No, and
protect us.
the
And that's
problem
the
is,
part.
and the city had promised that it's Parks Without Borders. That's been the whole thing about the city. And what they've effectively recreated here is a giant border wall that goes from the Jewish Heritage Museum all the way over to the Museum of the American.
Yes.
Yeah, all the way over to Bowling Green, basically.
Yeah.
It's a giant wall, as high as 9 feet in some places, taller in front of Wagner.
Yeah.
And they did not take care of the bicyclists entering into Wagner Park City once more.
That's something else too. And do we know yet what the date is that they're going to start? We don't really have a clue. Sometime in July.
Beginning of July. Right.
Beginning of July.
It was going to be after the Swedish festival.
Swedish festival is the end of June, they said.
That's June. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, they just, well, I'm waiting. Something totally not relevant, but I applied for a permit in Wagner Park for July 13th. And I haven't been rejected or approved yet. But I was asking, is that okay to do it on the 13th? Is that still within the time frame before the construction starts? And they said, I think so. So I don't know when they're planning it.
I will tell you that the restaurant has said they close at the end of June, so everything is shut as of the end.
Oh, fun!
It's amazing.
That's
what a change for 2 years. Wow. Anyway, thanks, Tammy.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I don't like being the bearer of bad news, so I'm sorry about that. But
no, that's all right.
Okay, so moving along, the only thing left remaining, I hope everyone goes on the construction tours, pre-construction tours, please, and whatever they would like to comment. For committee updates, I do not need to know everything that happened in your committee. The only purpose for committee updates at executive, because I really do want to save all the meat of the material for the meeting, the full board meeting, so people pay attention, is whether or not I'm going to light my hair on fire from controversy and have to put you in the beginning of the meeting versus the end of the meeting. And we've learned that through many of our lovely chairs who have had their hair pulled out at the end of the meeting when people are tired, it's highly controversial, and people start yelling. We're working on decorum, and part of the things for decorum is to try and take the more feisty issues up front, which also benefits the public as well. So we'll go through the committees, and if you have anything feisty, please let us know. If you don't feel the need to, just pass. We're going to start with Alice.
Very edifying. Do check out the archaeological plans for 250 Water Street. Fascinating.
Okay, Justine, you're next.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think I'm going to be fast too. No resolution. So we talked about a dog run, which was a fight. We talked about bonding for the Better Park City Authority. But
no resolutions, then
no resolution. I'll shut up. Thank you.
Meeting. Betty.
Yeah. 7 resolutions.
You're going first. I'm sorry.
Actually, I was communicating with Lucian about this because 6 of them really went through almost unanimously.
Oh, good.
One of them was more divided, so I was going to split that one out. So you want me to bulk them together for votes?
If it's controversial, do not.
Well, that would be separate.
Okay. We'll take a look at that and figure that out going into the meeting. Vicki, you have your hand up. I don't know if it's supposed to be. Vicki?
I don't. There's a cross through it. What's with this hand tonight? You see? Now it shows a hand. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You're good.
It says there's a cross. I don't know how to get rid of it otherwise.
Cross is good. Get rid of it. Just don't worry. Tap it once. All right, Jason, that brings me to landmarks since it's you and Vicki. Jason, anything?
All right.
Sounds like a no.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good for no. Ooh. Hello, baby. Sorry.
Hi, look at that.
Patrick, and then Paul, and then Pat.
Nada.
Patrick,
Nada.
love that. Paul?
We just have one resolution regarding proposal for Park Road beautification, pedestrian connection between Chinatown and Brooklyn Bridge, and it also involves the Rosa Chang Brooklyn Bridge Manhattan project. So it was unanimously supported, no controversy there that I foresee.
Thank you very much. Pat?
God, you guys missed a great meeting last night. We were there until, I don't know, 9:30 or so, the detention center. But I don't think tomorrow will not be, or next week will not be controversial. We have one Screedree Rezo. The controversial cobblestone discussion has been put off until next month.
Okay. Fantastic. I know I'm missing one. Francis, your licensing, my friend.
I'm not sure because I have to talk to Susan. There's a possibility of a couple of things.
All right. Well, certainly let us know. We'll see where we can put you up on there. Have I covered everyone? Youth and Ed is the only one I haven't covered tonight. It is spring break from public school, so many are not here. Which, you know, I kind of wish, but hey, we're all here today, so I'm glad to see everybody. And does anybody have anything else that they want to add, ask, or review? Amy,
Thanks,
you look.
Tammy.
All right, if not, then
Sure.
Mimi and I just want to say we're, the bathroom task force. So
Yep.
we just got off of, we had 2 meetings today about the bathroom task force, but we are going to bring, hopefully, the resolution asking for support about public bathrooms to the Quality of Life Committee meeting, Lucian, next month. So we'd like to have that meeting, have that reso, which we'll send to you. Betty's working on it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
I
it.
have
Great.
I have 3 updates from the chair before I hang up. One, we heard from the Trust for Governors Island. They're going out with the RFPs for the 4 finalists. That is important for everybody to know. We had a HRPAC exec meeting this past month. Please, if you're interested at all, come and join and listen to what's going on in the park. What else was it? Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Lucian and Diana to go over. Francis probably knows some stuff has appeared on the SLA agenda that.
Oh yes, that was one of the things, and I didn't know whether to bring it up or not.
No. Yeah. We're gonna have to do a letter from a chair attached with the resolutions going to the SLA because yes, we did have an opinion on people being open till 4 a.m. in the neighborhood and being told the SLA that
we
we
were very
thought
clear.
was okay was not exactly true. So we'll be following up on that. And again, for everybody who reads new legislation, who hears due diligence on things, please share it with us in the office. Please share whatever information you have because it just helps us be more responsive to the public when they need help as well. And with that, I think I am done with executive and it's 7 p.m. I appreciate your time. I'm off. Motion to adjourn.
Bravo. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
And thank you so much, guys.
Adjourned at 7 o'clock.